gentlemen, welcome to Azeroth Daily for the 7th or the 8th, depending on where you are, of March 2011. My name is TotalBiscuit, bringing you your daily dose of WoW news and comment. In the headlines today, MMO Champion has managed to unearth the next set of PvP armor sets. That's the one for Season 10. These are actually coming in patch 4.2, not patch 4.1. You can see the full set over on MMO Champion. The link to the article's in the description below this video. The one you see in the background is probably one of my personal favorites, some kind of cyber death ninja thing going on right there. And there's also this one, which is a little bit unfortunate for warriors. Your face is now on fire, which might obscure your vision somewhat. A little bit impractical, one might say. Go check them all out over on MMO Champion, and of course they are subject to change. Since this is data mined content, it's not actually in the game yet. Raiding Guild Immersion have become the first guys in the world to get glory of the Cataclysm Raider, which is the large meta achievement involving a wide variety of raid-related achievements, and the last achievement to finally be knocked over was the achievement Keeping It in the Family, which requires you to bring Nefarian down to below 50% health before he lands for his final confrontation. They managed to pull that off, and they were all rewarded with Drakes of the East Wind, and the video for what they were doing, well, that is in the description below this video, and it's actually running in the background as well. So if you do want to check that out, you can do that, though bear in mind the video doesn't really show you all that much. The Blizzard Art Gallery has been updated with 4 new pieces, and most of these are from the Burning Crusade, although we do also have a great picture in the background here of Grom Hellscream, absolutely kick-ass. There's also an image of the Maiden of Virtue, the Curator from Karazhan, and also the first boss, Achuman the Hunter. You can go check them all out in full resolution in the description below this video. The latest round of European community news has been released over on the European Battle.net website, including information from Italian site battlecraft.it, who have translated a number of useful blue posts on the subjects of Blood Death Knights, Discipline Priests, and Retribution Paladins. Also, the Swedish site levelcap.se is reporting on the upcoming Looking for Guild tool, as well as a few small UI changes coming in patch 4.1. If you're Romanian, you might also want to go and check out wowbox.ro, which has got several raid guides including Cimarron and Tramides, Maloriac, and the Omnitron defense system. All this, a roundup of this week's comics and noteworthy threads in the description below this video. Cryptozoic has released the latest WoW trading card raid boss set, which is the Assault on Icecrown Citadel, which is a 4-player game where you take control of various heroes, including Tyrion Fordring, Sylvanas Windrunner, and Jaina Proudmoore, to do battle against the Lich King and his Scourge army. Now, these actually do come with decks, and they're ready to go right out of the box, so those of you who haven't checked out the TCG Raid decks before, simply because, well, you had to have a deck in order to play the things, you might want to have a look at these. All of the information available in the post, which is in the description below this video, and it also comes with a unique treasure pack with plenty of special loot for when you actually beat the experience. Or, of course, you could cheat and open it beforehand, but that would be very naughty. And with that, it's time for your Daily Blues. Kaelwyn expresses some concerns that are on the minds of many people in regards to the fact that the raid content is not actually coming in until patch 4.2. He also points out that rehashed Zul'Aman and Zul'Gurub isn't in fact awesome, and it is of course not new content, which is entirely accurate. A response from Zarhym comes in, telling everybody that it's okay, there's going to be plenty more things coming in patch 4.1, which include the revamp. There's going to be a Stranglethorn quest line, which leads the players into the Troll Dungeon. He then goes on to say there's going to be a new tier of heroic dungeon gear. That's part of the revamp. Zarhym, it's not a feature, that was in the revamped dungeon, so we're not really concerned about that, as well as new updated flavor items, vanity pets and mounts, and something about guild challenges, which are new guild quests. Now that I'm interested in, but the rest of it, like I say, lamest 0.1 patch ever as far as I'm concerned. Just compare it to the other 0.1 patches, it's not even close. But if you want yet more rationalization on why Blizzard are giving you less content when you continue to pay the same cost for their game, am I sounding cynical? You're damn right I am. Then you can check out his full post in the description below this video. Also, try to ignore the idiots who say things like this: until you've beaten 13 out of 13 hard modes, you are not ready for new raid content. Yes, quite. Spot the guy who started in Wrath and doesn't understand what multi-tier raiding actually is. Dalian has concerns in regards to the state of Soulstones and the fact that Death Knights are now getting a combat res, but Soulstones don't actually work properly. Now, Daily goes on to say that Blizzard promised that they would allow them to be cast on a dead target for an instant res option, and yet that's not actually in the game yet. There is a response here from Zarhym, and he's saying the plan is indeed to allow Soulstones to be used on dead targets, which effectively gives Warlocks a combat resurrection. The likelihood is that this change will be put in with patch 4.1, but they cannot confirm that as of yet. And with that, it's time for your daily grind. We continue on from the quest Flightmare down at the bottom of the Southern Barrens, and we're heading over to the Dwarf Fortress down here. And this quest appears to be something of a generic kill quest until you find your target, who is a master of disguise, as you can see. Somehow I'm not entirely convinced that that will be all that effective. Regardless, 10 points for effort. And with that, it's time for your weekly feature. Yes, this is Machinimonday. This is a nice short one right here, a play on an old joke on the subject of Ragnaros. Yes, you should probably watch the whole thing to get the voiceover, but I like the fact that this has now finally got a Machinima. The voice acting's pretty good. I'm actually very happy with the voice acting, come to think of it, and it's pretty well put together, and the only thing I could really mark it down for, to be honest, is the fact that the joke is older than the internet. Yes, I know that doesn't make any sense, but there you go, and I will give it, as a result of that, a hearty 4 trolls out of 5. Click the link in the description below this video to go and check it out with the voiceover. And with that, it's time for the mailbox. This one comes in from Tilladon, who says, I've been a long-time fan of Blizzard and their many games, with Diablo being my favorite. However, me telling you what I do and do not love is not the reason why I'm sending you this email, no. But just from my simple observations over the last few years, I fear that the great company of Blizzard has been moving from a simple gaming company whose main goal was to put out high-quality and very entertaining games, now seems to be worried more about money they are making and not the happiness of their fan base. For example, last year's BlizzCon was, in my view, plain awful compared to some of the previous years. Also, before, they would never use microtransactions, i.e. mounts, pets, and whatnot. So do you fear, as I do, that Blizzard is no longer in this for the gamers and fans, and now they've been tainted by Activision, and now just want to suck us dry of every penny or shilling or ruby we have? Well, I don't have all that many rubies, so they're not going to be doing any sucking of that. I think there's certainly been a shift in attitude since the Activision acquisition, although I wouldn't put the blame squarely on Activision and say, well, Blizzard were just these wonderful saints, and they can do no wrong, at least before the evils of Activision came along. No, I don't believe that, honestly. There's a bit of give and take, and it's not going to be on the head of one single group as to what this change in direction is. But the more important question is just, what is the change in direction, and what is the degree of the change of direction? For instance, the fact that they would not do microtransactions, as you claim, well, they would and did. In fact, in vanilla, they put in what I view as the most flagrantly terrible microtransaction they've ever done, which is the $25 server transfer, which I might add is still in the game at the same price. A service that, as far as I'm concerned, should be free, and there is no reason not to make it free. And I've discussed this before, and don't give me... I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. I can hear it. I can hear the clackering of keys. Yes, I can hear it coming in right now as you say, oh, well, it's just there to discourage people from transferring at will. You could do that with cooldowns. Don't even get me started on that. Anyway, that's been in since vanilla, and that was a blatantly horrible microtransaction. That is worse, in my opinion, than little vanity pets, because to me, that's a fundamental service that should be in the game from the very start for free as something that players can do, because it's critical to their enjoyment of the game. And forcing people to actually pay additional money in order to get off a bad server or whatever, or transfer in order to play with their friends with the character they've worked on, is a travesty, I might add. So, don't think they are incapable of this kind of thing. And BlizzCon's kind of been bad for a while. I mean, I've been to a couple of them. I was at the first one, in fact. And that, to me, was not a great experience, especially bearing in mind the amount of money they were charging to people to actually go there. Not a lot of content there. There hasn't been a huge amount of content since. There's been more, certainly, over the course of the years, but it has blatantly got more commercialized. There's an awful lot of vendors and things like that there. I still don't think it's great value for money. So... no, I don't think they're doing that. I think there's a lot of misconceptions from fans. For instance, the whole $60 for StarCraft 2, people were up in arms about that, forgetting that that was also the cost of Warcraft 3. Blizzard have obviously made some design decisions that have been financially motivated. I don't think they're going all in for the almighty dollar. I still think they care about quality, and that is, for the most part, obvious anyway. Certainly with stuff like StarCraft 2, Diablo 3, and things like that. I think that recent WoW patch notes have sort of put a dampener on that, really. The idea of rehashed content and stuff, that's not helping their image. That really isn't, especially after Cataclysm was a great expansion with an awful lot of work put into it. But I don't think it's as bad as people are claiming. I'm asking for a little bit of moderation here from gamers and not to go absolutely crazy every time they hear that Blizzard is doing something that may or may not be financially motivated in some way. Just perspective, folks. Perspective. Now, usually I'll avoid things like this on the channel, but I think this is important enough to mention, and this one comes in from a person called Hamida, and he says, since Blizzard introduced some Arabian-style architecture into the game, I thought this is an opportunity to talk about what's happening in the Arabian world today. The latest news is absolutely horrific. I don't know if you have the time to follow these events, but you have to know that these events will affect the entire world. We're thinking about Libya right now, specifically, which is turning into a bloodbath. I know this is not the right place to talk about politics, but I sadly noticed that a lot of Europeans and Americans don't know anything about the Arabian world and Islam in general. The world discovers today that also Arabians are seeking democracy and freedom. I sometimes feel really sad about the lack of knowledge Europeans and Americans show about this part of the world. Very often people throw Muslims, Arabians, and terrorists in the same basket, which leads to confusion and fear. I imagine that the number of Arabians that watch your channel is in the small minority, but I think it would be a great thing to show some support for this minority, and on the same occasion tell people that humans are suffering right now and struggling for peace. Yes, I would agree. I think as gamers that we all need to come together in this regard. We all share this same passion for this hobby, and this hobby allows us to connect in ways that previous generations were not able to through the medium of online gaming. And for all the hostility that's in the gaming community, it's still an extremely powerful tool for cultural understanding, even if we often see this stereotypical attitude of everybody hating each other and racism and xenophobia. In a lot of the gaming communities that I've been involved in, I've not seen anything of the sort, and there is such a great opportunity to promote understanding between cultures and hopefully bring the world a little bit closer together. And I personally would like to put out as much support as possible for the guys over in the Middle East who are currently suffering under those various regimes and fighting for freedom over there. And I would hope that gamers in general would also show support for our brothers over there who enjoy the same hobby as we do, who think the same way we do, who like the same things we like, and were they born in a different country would not perhaps now have to arm themselves and take to the streets in order to fight for a better life for them and their families. So my heart goes out to them and to anyone that's been affected by that particular crisis. Okay, folks, that's me done for today's Azeroth Daily. Thanks a lot for watching the show, but before I go, I'd like to announce this week's Postcards from Azeroth contest. For this week's contest, I'd like you to go out and take a picture of the mob of your nightmares. Yes, indeed. Has there been a quest mob that's been particularly difficult, or perhaps a group of quest mobs? Send in a picture of them and leave a little bit of an explanation under the picture over on facebook.com/cynicalbrit for your chance to win a 60-day time card. And I'll announce the winners and show the best entries on Friday's show. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you next time.